Special master appointed to review the documents taken from former President Donald Trump's Florida home is having a hearing in New York today. Serena Marshall has more details from the White House.
Supporters stood outside former President Trump's Florida residence to welcome him back Monday.
He loves us. He gets depressed when we're not here.
It's the first time he's been back to Mar-a-Lago since the FBI seized documents on August 8th while carrying out a search warrant. Lawyers for the government and Mr. Trump will be in federal court in Brooklyn this afternoon for a hearing with the newly appointed special master in the case. Judge Raymond Dearie has laid out a draft timeline for his review of the material that was seized and set an October 7th deadline to sift through and label all of the documents. Trump's lawyers say the judge asked them to disclose specific information regarding declassification to the court and to the government.
The former president maintains that he declassified all of the documents he took with him when he left the White House, though his lawyers have not made that claim in court.
In a court filing late last night, Trump's lawyers suggested they may decline Judge Dearie's request, arguing doing so could harm their defense if Trump is indicted. The Department of Justice is conducting a criminal probe looking into the mishandling of classified documents and the possible hiding or destroying of government records. Serena Marshall, CBS News, the White House.
And Judge Dearie has until November 30th to complete his review. Well, first responders are currently at the scene of an explosion at a 3-story Chicago apartment building. 6 people have been taken to the hospital, with 3 of those victims serious to critical. And the Chicago Fire Department says that the building has partially collapsed. Now, what we also know at this time is that the source of the explosion isn't known, but a bomb squad and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives are currently on the scene as well.